Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Joey Galvez, and I'm here with my favorite friend, my co-host, Benjamin Morse. We are here to talk to you guys a little bit about some stuff. We're going to have a really cool creator come in, and we're going to talk to him about his new book. We got Matt Lowery here to talk about Thoughtscape. We're going to bring him in here. But before we do that, we want to remind you guys to head on over to if your favorite LCS, or remind them to pick up Greylock number 3. This one is from Eli Shockey, and he's a friend of the show. So make sure you guys can do that. If you guys want to shoot your phone towards the screen now, and you guys can go ahead and do that now. But we're going to bring you guys back right after this intro here for you guys, and we'll see you back in a second.
Welcome back for 2024. I hope everyone has had a fun and safe New Year's. And I, for one, am super excited to be back and to be starting off the new year. How was your holiday, Joey?
It was a lot of fun. We had we had all kinds of really cool presents, right? But the one that lingered and stuck around was COVID.
I got the same thing.
You opened up the same package.
I did. I thought to myself, there's been there's been a terrible miscommunication here. Not what I asked for.
Yeah, man. So yeah, unfortunately we got COVID, the whole family, but we're doing a little bit better. We're on the mend. My voice is almost back to normal. I started to smell things again today.
Oh, okay.
So, and it was probably myself. So, but it's okay. Nobody else can smell it, right? You guys all got the same thing going on.
No, I wouldn't know. I haven't quite gotten my sense of smell back yet. So it is anyone's guess.
Awesome. Let's bring our guest in because we're here to talk about Thoughtscape comics here. This is a really cool one. Tell us a little bit about this one, Mair Lowery.
Yeah, so Thoughtscape is an anthology series with stories written by me and drawn by a bunch of my favorite indie comics artists. We funded the first issue in 2021. Last year we did issues 2 and 3, and now we're back with 4 and 5. And yeah, it's like if you are a fan of 2000 AD, Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, we've got a couple continuing stories in each issue, or that go, they're serialized, sort of a la Judge Dredd or Rogue Trooper, that kind of thing. And then a couple standalones in each issue. So yeah, it's my way to, I guess, get to work with a bunch of different artists and tell stories of varying types, varying tones and stuff. So each issue is sort of got, I think, a lot of variety baked into it. And that's part of the goal, at least. So, yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Obviously, I'm a huge science fiction fan, and I love I think there's so many anthologies out there, but the ones that I think really land and really work well are the ones that kind of have a theme to them, and especially ones that kind of harken back to 2000 AD. I mean, I've been aware of this one for a while, but I think from the first time I saw one of these images and saw a sentence of the description, I'm like, okay, I totally get what this is. I have some frame of reference, and it was a really clear value proposition, I think, as a reader and a backer, in addition to what I was going to ask about is all the great artists you're working with. I mean, this is who's who of indie comics all stars here. And
yeah, that was a big part of what I wanted to do. I mean, I was like, around the time I was putting this together, I'd done a couple of graphic novels for Dark Horse with a great artist, Cassie Anderson, on a series called Life Formed. We did a couple books there. But so my experience had been very great with her, but very limited to, working with just one person. And it was feeling like getting those wheels turning and like having a broader experience of making comics was something that I needed to figure out how to do. And so, I just started seeing who would be willing to work with me and firing off some stories and seeing what we could put together.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So I'm going to throw this up on screen, but kind of take us through, if you can, what's new in this edition,
Sure.
what stuff is picked up from other ones, kind of what are you excited about for this campaign's
for sure.
Thoughtscape?
So basically the loose Thoughtscape framework is that these stories are sort of coming from the future in this package that is delivered by a company called Life Tech, and they have access to the Thoughtscape where every thought that's ever been thought exists. And so these stories are, pulled from that is sort of the conceit there. So if we go down here, we've got basically I guess the first thing I'm excited about is we've got variant covers this time out, which I haven't done before. I was pretty reluctant at first just because I'm not I guess I grew up reading comics in the 80s. We didn't have variant covers. It took me a while to come around to them, but I realized that this is a cool way to just get to work with even more artists, right? And come up with some concepts and just kind of broaden the scope of that. So we've got Paul Harrison Davies on one cover. We've got a Jim Kersey cover that you can see there. And then Dave Law, who is my I guess now my longtime original collaborator on any Thoughtscape stories, did one as well. So we've got those for issue number 5. And then we've got a very cool chimp reading a Thoughtscape comic that he's on the cover of by Carl Slominski up there for number 4. So those are our 2 new issues. And then we've got 1, 2, and 3 for anyone who's just totally new to the world. So so I don't know, I've printing these has been great. I kind of got to pick my specs and everything and really get what I wanted out of the printing process. And so I'm definitely excited to see how these really varied covers for 4 and 5 and those variants come out. So that's been super fun. And then I guess just more getting stories and the new stories out there. I'm trying to think what the best way to go to. If you go on the left hand side to the little new nav bar thing they do, down below the add-ons, I've got Thoughtscape issue by issue, and I could kind of walk through. So right here I'm breaking out what's in each one, but if you want to jump to 4, I can kind of walk through some of the new guys here. So here you're seeing great art from Dave Law, Tyrell Cannon.
Tyrell Cannon is great. Very cool to see that.
He's amazing. As I often say, I always have a script or 2 ready for Tyrell whenever I can afford to pull him in, because it's just I don't know. He feels like such pure comics. Especially we've done a couple of black and white things of varying screen tone stuff, and it just feels kind of nice and old school and fun. So so number 4, we've got, like I said, Carl on the cover. Carl has been working with me since issue 1 on a story called Ex Post Facto, a Dash Varick misadventure, which is sort of like a Doctor Who meets Twin Peaks sort of thing. You can see the School's Out for Never poster there is probably a good example of Carl's madman brilliance. I'm super excited about getting more Carl and more Dave out into the world. Dave Law does Thoughtscape 2319, which is sort of the flagship story that starts each issue. He's up there. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I've been following his work for a long time. I think back when I first got onto Instagram, I think he's one of the first artists I kind of discovered there.
Yeah.
Fantastic talent.
Yeah, he's great. We the first con that I ever did, which was a Rose City here in Portland. Dave was there, and right across the aisle from us, and we, him and his partner Chris Calzia, on a series called Space Auditorium, which is excellent if you haven't read it. We hit it off and just kind of stayed in touch, and then a couple years later, after another con at another Rose City. I kind of was like, I had these different concepts for Thoughtscape going around my head. I had some of the short stories that were already in progress, and looking at Dave's stuff and talking with Dave kind of like gelled the whole concept. So he's definitely an essential part of this all coming together. And
Cool.
yeah, does his cool, real traditional pencils and inks with some watercolor and then like some Photoshop stuff, real kind of multimedia vibe. And then the next one in this is called Out of the Mouths of Babes, which is a sort of film noir, very Twilight Zone-y, Outer Limits sort of thing, featuring a mobster guy. And that is drawn by Luke Horsman, who is actually drawn Judge Dredd for 2000 AD, done other work for them, and is in England. And yeah, so this was super fun one to work on too. Another black and white one, to just kind of really like, I don't know, I like to get the different textures going throughout the book, and it's super fun to just get a little more old school with it. So we've got that going. That's kind of like it's around a 20 pager or so, if my memory serves correctly. And then then Lane Lloyd is on a story called The Upbeat.
I love Lane Lloyd's work.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, super fun, super distinctive, and yeah, when I got this, I had this story sitting around for a while, and then I don't know if you have those, and my brain just like finally was like, oh, it's this person and this, right? And I was like, Lane would be perfect on this. So so super fun. I'm very excited to see this one in print, just because it's like got a real distinctive feel, even from the other Thoughtscape stories that
when people talk about having fun with proportions, I think this is the idea that we should be thinking about than the other things the other people were talking about.
Yes, for sure. Yep. Yeah.
Because these are definitely fun ways, and I always love when people think about outside of the box with different things of that nature, and it's Lane Lloyd really definitely touches on that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and he draws some bonkers. I wrote some bonkers stuff for this story, and he draws it, and it turned out really fun and pretty crazy. So so this is about a guy who is the only survivor of it. Everybody in the near future is like popping pills that have little robots, nanobots in them, and using those to enhance themselves in some way. And there's an update with those nanobots that only one person doesn't download, and so he is he's the only one not affected by what goes wrong in that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty fun story. And then we got Carl on this Dash story. So this is real kind of like, I write this as sort of a stream of consciousness, and then Carl just delivers his special skills. That's this guy right here. Yeah. Under the Lane stuff. Sorry.
Oh, Under the Lane. Okay.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right there. So this is, I could try to explain it, but it's probably best just experience, because Carl does such amazing stuff with it. But it's basically real stream of consciousness. At this point, it's very much me throwing like stuff at Carl that I just want to see Carl draw and see how it turns out. And then when I get the script, I change it up if I need to, and I kind of write each part as we go, because it's, he's got so many great ideas and great visuals that come through that I want to let the story be driven by his work. So so this is sort of our maybe our midpoint, I guess, for this particular arc, at least. And things go pretty bonkers, as that image there indicates. And so that's the fourth issue. And then like I said, we got the variants in the 5th issue that are detailed here, and some fun stuff, really varied. And yeah, I did this one that Dave drew is sort of like I've been calling it sort of date night in the Thoughtscape, with a bunch of monsters and a bunch of couples hanging above the monsters. So yeah, it's just definitely trying to get the wheels turning. This one made me want to write a couple short stories just after seeing what he came up with for this. So it's really fun to just, basically let the artist do whatever. We come up with like a real loose concept. I think my idea was basically like like Dave and I had been talking about what might make a good romance sci-fi story, and I was like, try to do like a romantic cover, and this is what they comes back with. So
Very cool.
yeah, pretty fun. So yeah, and then so then the story, the let's see, Thoughtscape 2319 below that with the nice beautiful purples there, continues with Dave on the art, and the page below that I really love. I think he really just I don't know, it's fun, like do some 9-panel grid stuff but kind of mix it up, and render some we've got some characters getting flashbacks in this issue, so that's what is happening there. And then what do we got below that? My brain is this one is so Rob Gogran is working on this story called Immortal Hits, which is about a guy that gets abducted while listening to a mixtape in the early 90s, abducted by aliens. And Rob's style, another person that just like, kind of like you were saying, like finding folks on Instagram whose art you're just totally clicking with. And I was really digging Rob's stuff, and he was able to work with me on this one. And it's some really fun, he's got a nice cool retro vibe, pretty engaging, and super colorful and fun stuff. So and this is sort of our I tried to start pushing into like a little bit longer stories, so this is kind of the more epic standalone story in this issue. And then the next one is by Carly Allen Fletcher on the art, and this is another sort of romantic or whatever, not quite romantic tale of the Thoughtscape. A couple that goes on vacation, and things go bad, but more just emotionally. So this is sort of basically, Carly does these really cool book covers, and I've been digging her stuff for a long time. And my approach on this one is sort of like, I'm a big fan of Grendel. Matt Wagner's Grendel from the olden times. I guess it's still going, and the way he would experiment with the form and do some big, just like full on pages, basically with just prose in it. And that's a little bit like what this story is going to be. Just a little more, just trying out some new stuff and trying to push it in those zones. And then, and then there'll be another chapter, a dash in this. But Carl and I have that one under wraps, hence the little question mark there. So, so that's sort of an overview of the next of these two new issues. They're both going to be 60 pages, which is this 12 or so pages more than usual. Seems weird to say since there's only been 3 issues, but all the issues are kind of in between 48 and 60. So 3 was 60 as well. So so we're hoping we can pull this out somehow and make it happen.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. I was going to ask you, even at points we have the same artist doing different things, particularly Dave Law, and you're changing stuff up a lot. I mean, he's got kind of a Frank Miller in the early 2000s vibe to some of his line work here, and then other parts are more polished. In fact, this image here really screams to me Ian Gibson, who just passed away, unfortunately. But was a mainstay of that kind of 2000 AD scene back in its heyday. Do you kind of talk with them like, hey, do you think you could push this in like this kind of influence direction, or do they run with that on their own?
I sometimes do a little bit in the script where it's like, if I've got a real specific vision for something, I mean, I definitely have asked Carl to draw like Frank Miller helicopters, right? Like the big, the big bulky Dark Knight guys. Um, so somewhat, I try to keep it pretty conceptual rather than like maybe a specific artist or anything. But I found that like after a few attempts at other stuff that never kind of came into being, that like the more prescriptive I was, the less likely it was to sort of like really sing on the page. And so letting folks just kind of do their thing and like basically having my job, I guess, would be that like just sort of like casting or picking the right artist seemed like really the key thing. Dave and I do a lot of back and forth, but I think it's way more about I guess just it's about pushing it, but I think it's mostly about just pushing like each of us, right, to kind of try something different or like stretch in a different way, which he's willing to do. And like everybody is pretty, I haven't had anybody like, respond poorly to like, let's really like make this as bonkers as whatever we want to do. Like in Dash, like I wrote in the first issue, I had the guy turn into a mushroom cloud, and Carl was like, this isn't a metaphor. You really want him to turn into a mushroom cloud? And I'm like, yep, that's it. He's like, okay, I got it. And then he just like, sort of telepathically absorbed the right vibes and went for it. So, yeah, I mean, it's obvious, like easily the best part of all of this is sort of the back and forth that you achieve, or on the best, when it's really working, that back and forth is a ton of fun. And hopefully everybody's kind of pushing themselves further and further. And like on this 9-panel grid page, it was definitely a case of like, well, we've got this flashback. We've got like 3 different people having flashbacks in this issue. The story itself is only 7 pages long. So like, how are we going to really differentiate that? And so you see like this page, and then the panel above that I've got in the little masthead is that sort of like purple spaceship stuff going through space. Like that's somebody else's flashback. So Dave really like leaned into what can we do to make these really like differentiate themselves just like one page to the next, which is kind of how they present. So
well, that's a great storytelling tool as well, especially when you're looking to do something with like not that many pages, and you've really got to get in addition to that, when you're doing these kind of Twilight Zone-ish 2000 AD science fiction concepts, there's generally some amount of world building and explanation of some central concept that you have to get across in addition to just having a short story. Yep. And I think you got to be smart about your artwork to do that, I think, intelligently as well.
Yeah.
I've been trying to mix up my art style for an anthology I'm doing upcoming. I've been trying to do an Alex Toth story and a Frank Miller story. Oh, okay. And just as an artist, you learn. I mean, I'm always excited to do something like that. So I kind of wondered if your artist came to you and said, "Hey, I really was just read this book and I'm pumped about that." Could we kind of push in that direction?
We did. If you go up to click on the Thoughtscape Comics number 3 there, I can show you one where we kind of did actually do some of that. I think that should jump you right up there. Yeah. And then scroll down a little bit. Sorry, it's kind of tedious to get to, but so there's a story in this one called Playing Possum, which is under this guy here, with Dessalina Fletcher. And she totally had just read a bunch of stuff where it had really influenced how she wanted to deal with particularly like the blacks and across the entire issue. So a lot of this takes place in a forest, or a big piece of it does. And so she definitely came to me and said, I think I want to do, I think this is how I want to render a shadow and how I want to treat the darkness in the forest. And there's a lot of just like really keyed in blacks and make it really, really moody, which she pulled off beautifully, I feel like. So yeah, I mean, like I'm all for trying stuff out, and I'm totally happy to experiment like that. In Thoughtscape Comics number 1, we had I don't think it's not on this page, but Lisa and I, it's a story about some doll androids that go haywire, and I had just listened to the cartoonist kayfabe guys breaking down the opening of Dark Knight Returns, and they were breaking down the 16 panel grid. And so I was like, I need to write a 16 panel grid page and see how that goes. And I'll check with Lisa first and see if she's cool with it.
Yeah, that's not what any artist wants to see when they open up the script. Like page 1, 16 panels. Oh my god, I've made a mistake.
So I was like, okay, so I've got 2 pages with 16 panels on them. Are you cool with that? She's like, yeah, that's fine. So, and it turned out really great, right? It was just like it wasn't, each panel didn't have to be super detail rich, and so it was it was a good experiment. It worked really well. I think like it kind of pushed, you don't see it a lot anymore, so it was fun to try out something that you don't see a lot, and yeah, it worked well. So I mean, it's definitely like the learning process of all of this is certainly where I'm at, and why I started it in the first place was to really like up my experience and like get just push through more stories. So, and like the Tyrell one here that we're looking at, Spy Without a Face, is basically like, we did a story that ended up in Thoughtscape Comics #2 that I really liked, but I wasn't written for it with him in mind. He did a great job with it. It was awesome. But as I was seeing more and more of his work and like his just like kinetic action, I was just like, oh, I need to do something where I just like unleash him, right? Like he just needs to be able to go nuts. And so I basically just wrote a very loose outline for the Spy Without a Face story, and said like, go with this. It's like, here's the basic action of each page, and then he just like did whatever he wanted with those pages as long as we ended up at a certain point after 11 pages or whatever. And then I just went in and wrote my sort of hard-boiled Frank Miller dialogue over the top of it. I did the letters on that one, so I got to like just really like monkey with it, put the letters in different places, put words on just open white space in the Frank Miller tradition. So yeah, it was a blast. So definitely like trying to bring something unique to each story in that way is very important.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome to see. So as far as how you enjoy, you might want to jump in here. Like when you've been, I've seen a lot of anthologies start to do really well. I've seen that there's like a huge saturation of them on Kickstarter as well. Is there any strategy you kind of look at as far as how you're putting these out or promoting them that is unique to doing something like this anthology?
I think the biggest thing is that each issue is sort of presented as if it's a product, as I said, of this like futuristic corporation. And so the opening pages are, I guess so far they're all sort of like an HR memo to the reader from the company, as if they're a member of the team that is out there like collecting these stories and putting them into the package. And so those are very influenced by like RoboCop and all the sort of 80s sarcastic, like parody sort of sci-fi or and so yeah, it's so I'd be trying to like package it up in a cool way where the entire thing is like valuable, I guess, for lack of a better word, but like there's material of value on every page. And then like in the third issue, I had a bunch of QR codes that kicked you out to like some digital content. So that was fun. So I've been experimenting with it. I don't think I have any sort of like solid strategy or anything. But I definitely want it to be like as immersive as possible. And I don't want anything to be like throwaway. There's a lot of graphic design stuff that goes into it too. I do design for my day job and have since I was out of school ages ago, and I have a really good friend who's an amazing graphic artist, and so he came up with a lot of the branding material for me, the logo and everything, and then I got to just take that and with each issue sort of run with it and do cool layouts and try fun stuff. And so I think just a good package that's super well printed is sort of where I'm trying to go with it. And, varying degrees of success. So we'll see how it goes. But it takes up a lot of time to do the business side of it. And it's, as we all know, and it's sort of finding finding the energy for that part is a lot harder than finding the energy for the writing and, and working on the cool stuff. So
so going back to like issue number 1 and marketing issue number 1 to marketing this one now, what do you feel that you have you've learned, or maybe maybe even something that you're doing recycling again, but making it a little bit better?
I think the biggest learnings, I guess everything seems pretty weird now in terms of marketing stuff. I'm not sure like what's working. I've noticed like, I would say everything's like a quarter of the traction that I used to have. And whether that's like Instagram posts or Twitter posts or whatever. But I think most of the learnings have been in just trying to really, I guess, like create reusable components, for lack of a better word, in the, like, whether it's the trailer that I put together or just the graphics for the Kickstarter page, trying to like save as much of my own time as possible by using cool but reusable elements where I can just kind of swap stuff in and out. That took me longer than it should have, because I wanted to like be giving as much to the marketing of it as I was to each book. But then I realized I was kind of burning myself out with trying to come up with like a new layout for the Kickstarter page every time, or a new way to present each cover or something. So that was important. I honestly don't know if I've cracked much else in the marketing front. Like it seems really tough right now. I think the campaign is showing that it's a little tough right now. And I'm not totally sure that other than sort of just like efficiency wise, I've kind of cracked anything. At least nothing that comes to mind. I mean, I do think, like collaborating with other folks, like I've got as add-on rewards in the current campaign, Tyrell's doing commissions, or a very limited number of spots. And then
do you see that those things are working out?
I don't yet. So I do also have Dustin Weaver has his series Packless. He's got we've got a package of 8 issues. And like Dustin's amazing, obviously, and has, worked for all the big guys, and is killer. And so, I think that people are definitely interested in checking this out. I don't, the add-on structure of Kickstarter makes things is a little counterintuitive to people, at least in my experience so far. I've had a lot of questions about just like how to do it. And then I've also got a lot more digital backers than physical backers, I'm realizing. And like I'm only offering, Packless as a physical reward, not a digital reward. And so like right there, you have some issues. So, I mean, it's cool. And like in the last campaign, I did this with, Corridor Magazine, Tenebris Press, and Dave Acampo on his book Spectral. And we had like these add-on packages from other folks. And to me, it was sort of like embracing this sort of like 80s punk ethos where, like you would, you'd get the Discord catalog in the Fugazi release, and it's got all the stuff from everybody else. I don't know. It definitely seems like there's got to be some good ways to do this stuff that I'm not cracking yet.
Because I see that a lot too, and I always wonder, like, what works better? What has been working, what hasn't been working. And so are those little those packages that you're putting together from other various artists? Are those working?
I would say, I mean, it's like it's a perk, not a. it's not a big hit, I guess I would say, if that makes sense. Like it's nice and it might get you a little bit more, but like when you're talking about some of this
it
stuff,
works. I feel like it only works for like the fans or for the reader, for like just to give them the more of an experience of what you're offering. But I don't think it's gonna move the needle for anybody, dollar wise or monetary value.
No, not really, because you've got so much, like you've got to buy it from the other creator for so much money, right? It's going to cost you a certain amount. And so like the amount you're making off each one is like pretty insignificant compared to everything else. And like with Pacos, it's just like, I think it's, I was just like, oh, this is just a perfect fit, right? It's like a serialized anthology book, and like getting more eyes on cool stuff is something I've always been interested in, like just helping people do that. So, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be like the make or break, right? Just if only just because of the costs so associated with it. So it's very it's a little bit challenging. And I think like the thing I was hoping for was having 5 issues. And I know this is sort of counterintuitive to a lot of stuff that goes on with series. I understand. I was kind of hoping with the Kickstarter model, you might see there's 5 issues. I can just dive into this thing that everybody seems like they're digging, and the first couple campaigns did well. And so like you have a lot of new readers, and I think like the new reader purchase, packs so far are pretty it's pretty skimpy on that front. So
wow.
So yeah, it's no, it's a weird time, or at least it's a weird
Kickstarter has been very, very odd to kind of play around with, right? And is this the one thing that I think I find that is true, is that the same thing that you did last time will not work this time.
Yeah.
That's like, and it's going to continue to do, like, so it's very weird, right? And each campaign has a life of its own, and you can go into a campaign and expect to do well and say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do because I did last time, right? But it doesn't. This may not work that way sometimes, right?
Totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I was, because I've even wondered about just this time of year, like, is this a good time or not? But the last time went great. So like kind of like you said, I was like, okay, well, I'm basically just, not doing exactly the same thing, but kind of following the same models. I did the same sort of pre-campaign push to get a bunch of followers, on the Kickstarter page and stuff. And all those things that seemed like they did well last time. And I mean, so far it doesn't seem like it's, we're in the same ballpark. So
I think even I've been hearing from other creators too that even the numbers have been very weird since like November, December.
Oh, really?
Are very weird, or even like October numbers compared to like January numbers are very odd. People are saying that where like in October, Kickstarter would have been one of your main ones of where everybody was coming from, right?
Yeah.
Where now it's like one of the lowest ones where everybody's coming from, which is very interesting. And I wonder if it's because there's not a lot of traffic through Kickstarter right now. And I say I'm going to say this. I'm guilty of, I haven't seen a Kickstarter. If obviously I work and I build Kickstarter pages, but I haven't like scrolled Kickstarter to like go and purchase something since before like November. And so I'm guilty of it. So how many more people are also guilty of that?
Yeah. It seems a lot quieter now. I was actually building the page to get a pre-launch link while I was sick because it was one of the things I could do. So I was kind of doing that for that reason. I was like, there are just not a lot of comics on here right now.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's just kind of and that's I think probably due to the time of year. People are like, I'm not to try and run a campaign during the holidays.
Everybody's going to start running them there. Everybody's going for February. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think that's why Kickstarter kind of got an idea. They were like, okay, January is going to be a little slow, so they kind of kick it over a notch. They have that open call that make 100 because you make 100. It's a lower goal. It's already kind of it's not this huge, crazy, ambitious campaign. I considered, dropping the thing that we're doing here in January, and I was like, well, let's push it back to February. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
But everybody's doing it in February now. February and March and April. Those are going to be hot months. I feel like but everybody has their hot months, right?
Yeah.
But what do you do? Like you said, what do you do when your hot month changes and it's no longer your hot month?
Yeah. I think like all this stuff, like I think just being as like nimble as you can be and adapting and not being like, and it's tough because it's like most people are doing this not as like their primary gig, right? So like it's tough to find the energy reserves to do it, but like if you can just view failure as like another data point and just kind of like take that data and go to the next thing as fast as possible, like if you can sustain your morale, in order to do that, I think that it's kind of the only way you can make something happen, and is just keep trying to iterate and just try different stuff. I did a Zoop campaign that failed largely or in a big way right around the time they opened up to outside create, I can't, whatever they called it, 2022, and it was brutal, but I learned a ton from it. And I think that what I learned from that, I was able to take and put into the next Kickstarter campaign and learn. So I guess like if this ends up not working out, I'll try to take the learnings from this and move on to in a new way. But yeah, it's just, I think you just got to like fail fast and fail often and learn from it and keep pushing it through. If you can, it is tough because it's, everybody's got like their hearts into this, into what you're working on. And it's definitely can be brutal when it doesn't happen in a good way. So.
Yeah, I found that last year as well. My campaign for August, I was so pumped about. It's my favorite book, and it just was like, and I saw every other crowdfunder really just have a bad month that month as well. I didn't necessarily take it too personally, but at the same time, I was just like, I also kind of had in my gut, I had seen a lot of campaigns do really well, I'd say in June. And then at the same time in my day job, I was hearing, oh, so-and-so got laid off or jobs had slowed down. I kind of got the sense that like, hey, August is not going to be great. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had listened to that a little bit more and held up for a few months. And I think that's something, it pointed to two things: A, that, you should be paying attention to that, and B, that if you do kind of smell something in the air, and I think this is I don't think this is even necessarily, confined to crowdfunding comics, but everything. It's like, yeah, this might not be a great month. I do think you probably can trust your gut there. At least I will next time.
Yeah. Yep. No, that makes a ton of sense. It's and a lot of stuff is just a total gamble and a toss up. Like Joey was saying, it's like, how do you know, like how, like one month, if your month was hot last time and it's not hot this time, like it's real hard to know where it's going to go.
Yeah. It's rough, right?
Yeah.
It's all random too. I mean, that's my first campaign did really well. The second one, I don't think I worked as hard on it, thinking I expected to lose a little bit from issue 1 to issue 2, but I lost a lot more than I thought. And I thought, all right, that was a little bit laziness, probably a little bit things just not working out. And then it's always luck too. I mean, one of the first, when I was trying to get my channel going on YouTube, I did a video where I kind of picked through some AI stuff in relation to another book I was working on developing. It got like 11,000 views or something. I thought, wow, I'm really good at this. This is going to be great. I'll probably be the next Mr. Beast by this time next year. Found like, no, you were just lucky the first time.
I know. I was playing around. See, then I love that we're talking about this because when you play around with like the algorithms and you play around with different ways to market and stuff. So in ways to get myself out there and to get in things, I was going on TikTok and because at the time I had a live show every Wednesday. We were talking about geek culture, and it was like geek culture that was happening, and it just happened to be like 2020, 21, where everything was happening, right? Because everything was shut down. So there was, or before then, after, but so it was like hot, right? So so there was a lot to talk about. So what I did was I jumped on I jumped on TikTok, and I like, because we had a pretty good source of like information coming from like different friends who are in the media. So we kind of got stuff a little bit earlier, or as they were dropping, so we were able to go on TikTok and drop stuff, a video about like different thing. Like it was like about, I think it was like volume 3 when they were like literally just like signing contracts and stuff, and people were talking about people dying, right? So like,
Right.
so they were like speculating, right? And one of the little bit more solid ones, which actually didn't happen. So I should probably go back and do a TikTok video and blow up. But it blew up. It like got like 80,000 views or something like that in like of course of a few hours. I was like, holy crap. And I was like, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be a TikTok star. Nope. It was just the one time that you talked about the one thing that was happening, right? So it's
Right.
like, and so, but how do you do something like that? How do you take something like that and duplicate it and try to, because I guess if you don't play the lottery, right, you don't win. So how do you, if you don't get yourself out there and do these things and make mistakes and try different things
Yeah.
and change the way your trajectory, right? So maybe you got to get yourself out there and learn. So exactly, I feel like it's one of those really cool things that we can kind of do is fail and learn, right?
Yeah,
So.
totally. Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think like I think even though I think this is the thing that really frustrates me a lot of the times is just like how much time you spend in on that side of things, right? Trying to like penetrate the noise versus making the work. And so I feel like a lot of the times it's really hard to maintain the goal because of the pace of just like, I just want to put out like a really good book, right? It's like, I just want to get like, that's ultimately it's all in service of that. And so I think if you can focus on just always making sure that the thing you're actually making, like the art object you're actually making, not necessarily the content you're making, is like as good as possible, so that whether somebody finds it this year or they come across it in, I don't know, like a dime bin in 10 years or something, that like it holds up and like they're interested enough, to like check it out. And I mean, like it's, yeah. So because the other stuff can be so painful and so fraught of like, why am I not getting more clicks and why am I not getting through? So it's like being able to like have the work and have it be solid seems like, if you can keep that as your core, and so it's really easy to lose track of it, but if you can keep that as your core, it seems like the thing to do. And then maybe at least you'll be, like a footnote in the history of comics, right? Which is full of weird footnotes of stuff that should have probably worked but didn't. And that's cool, in and of itself. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it all boils down to like, you have to put on that hat and it's like, okay, what can I do next time? And then there's also just, you really do have to go back and I think refocus, be like, okay, this didn't work out, but I do really want to do this book. I want to do this genre.
Yeah.
I want to do this type of setup. And that things do have to that has to be the genesis of most things. I think. I mean, I guess as a creative person, I would be the one saying that, but and I think that's, you also are somebody, you said something earlier that resonated with me because I'm always thinking it is when you were talking about how you set these things up and even the graphic design pages or the credit pages, you're like, okay, I want to make sure every page of this has value to the reader. And that's something I'm always like editing in my head. Okay, here's an exposition scene. I have a lot of ground to cover, but there's got to be a way to make this fun and not just like a boring, let's get to the next thing, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
I'm always really just trying to look for ways to do that. And I think as long as you're doing that, sometimes I think your backers are not always going to stay with you from book to book, especially in a longer series. But I think people will remember, this was always, every step of this was good. I think it's the reason I think from a reader's perspective to go to these comics on Kickstarter or any other platform is at its best, we're going to be doing things a little bit more like that. We're not just putting out a book every month. We're not just getting the X-Men to where they need to be for the new team to take over. We're not kind of just servicing that thing. These are supposed to be things that are taking a little more time on,
Yep.
and giving you a little bit more care than you get in somebody that's just trying to get the next issue out before it needs to be in stores. So I think people will remember that. At least that's what I'm hoping. I think that's from a reader perspective. You're not going to get your comics that day necessarily.
Right.
You got to wait for them to come in the mail. There's some drawbacks to this, but I think that we have to concentrate on making those tangibles that everything about this is fun. Everything about it has attention paid to it. That's got to be the thing I think that compensates for it. And this book does that. So that's I think something that long term is I think going to work out.
Yeah. Cool.
Definitely.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, I think we are coming down to the last few minutes here of the show. This is the part of the show where we talk a little bit about what we do, a little bit about what we have coming up. You are more than welcome to hang out, or you can head out if you need to. We're just going to talk a little bit about what we have going on. First of all, we talked a little bit about just to kind of backtrack.
Yeah.
We talked about how like it could be a little hard to kind of break through that noise and kind of especially if you are having to separate the business side of the things from the creation side of things, and how do you kind of balance the different two, right? So us over here at Geek Collective, we are actually a full service studio, and what we do is we actually help you guys with crowdfunding support. We have all these really great amazing things that we have. We do a project management, campaign designs, we do site building, we even have trailers. Benjamin is a talented video engineer, so he does some really great professionally infographic trailers. He also can animate, do some small animations too as well. So if you guys are looking for some really cool services and you guys are needing some different things that we can do for you guys, we also do on-demand support. We do all as press kits. We'll even help you with your pitch deck if you wanted to pitch those to the direct market as well. So we do all those really different all those really cool things that we offer. It's me and Ben. What we do here at Geek Collective is we contract out working comic pros. So if there's any work that you guys need, we have different people that are on our roster of contractors, so that we can reach out to them, like people like Alan Dunford, who is one of the writers of Grandma Chainsaw, Pocus Hocus, and upcoming book that we have in a magazine that we're going to be doing. It's kind of like a magazine anthology kind of mashup thing that I did that we're going to be doing here, called Archetypes. We're going to be dropping that on Kickstarter here in February. It's going to feature Beneath the Lighthouse from Rabbit and Hat Studios, which is Alan Dunford's studio house. There, we're also going to have a really cool spin-off here story from Ben's Scarlet Twilight, Ace Falcon, and it's going to be one of the first appearances of that story there. We're also, is that true, Ben, or am I lying?
Yeah, this is the first one of the first spin-offs. I'm going into Cobalt Crisis, which is going to be my next big Scarlet Twilight book, and in the lead up to that, I'm doing a few if you look at those old Golden Age comics, they'd have like a 60-page book that would almost be an anthology. You'd have 10 pages of Batman, you'd have 10 pages of like Airwave or somebody like that. You have some prose. So I'm kind of trying to do that, and Ace Falcon is one of those stories. So
yeah,
it's
cool. And then
it's the next chapter of Scarlet Twilight.
Very cool. So, and we're going to be showing you guys that. You're going to view an 8-page sneak peek of that story there within these pages. And we're also going to have a brand new short story here from a breakout creator. His name is Rafael Flores Jr. This one is Mother Wolf and Cubs. So we're going to have 3 different comic books with there, probably 4, because I might have some of our friends over at Oneshi Press. They have a couple of things they want to show as well. So we're going to throw that into here. We also have some really cool articles from Geek Network. They were telling me that they have something lined up really awesome, that they're going to do some stuff specifically for this, and then they're going to drop it on their website as well. So that's going to be really cool. And it's a really huge announcement. So that way, and big for the comic book industry. we have some writing tools from our friend Adrian. He is he is at Pesto Comics over at on X Twitter, and he's what he does is he does these daily like affirmations and like and like puts these like daily writing tips out there. So I wanted him to kind of gather some of his favorite ones and put them together, and we were going to put those into an article there for you guys. And he's going to be doing something really cool. I don't know what he's going to do with it. He's going to do something special. We're going to talk to our friends Oneshi Press, and we're going to ask them to explain themselves and tell us what's up in 2024, and really cool stuff. And so we're going to have some media kits, some resources there for that, as well as some marketing tools and some really cool stuff. So that one's coming up. Here's some of the pages for Beneath the Lighthouse from our friend Brian Belando. He's the interior artist for all those other really cool stuff too. And this one, there's something beneath the lighthouse. Here's Mother Wolf and Cubs. She's a werewolf. That's one thing I'm going to give away for you guys. That's about all we're going to show you guys because we can't give you anything more. But make sure you guys are following us on Kickstarter. It is geekcollective.net/archetypes. That will be dropping in February. So make sure you guys are doing that. If everybody hits their deadlines and we are good and I've got it laid out, and me and Ben have it all laid out and worked out, we're going to go to print before we even launch this thing on Kickstarter, so that when we are ready for you guys on Kickstarter, we can the Kickstarter pays the contributors and it pays for shipping and distribution and all that stuff, and to do it again. So we're to contribute to new artists and pay new artists to do, because we're hoping to do this at least once per year. And then if we can get some kind of sustainability to this, maybe we'll start doing a quarterly book. So what we're doing with this is we're gonna try to use this as a tool for all of us to kind of grow together and to showcase Kickstarter crowdfunding books that are going to be happening in the summertime. So we're going to drop something in the beginning of the year, so you can anticipate stuff that's going to be dropping in the summertime. So around the time that we will print this, you'll have maybe 1 or 2, 3 months before some of these things actually drop in Kickstarter, and you'll be able to read some of the stuff a little ahead of time and have it physically in your hands while you're contributing to that actual Kickstarter as well. So that's our hope. We'll see how this little experiment goes. This is kind of my little brainchild. Came from like my punk rock days when we did punk rock zines and like went to Kinko's and printed them out. But now we have cool printers. Now we have amazing artists, and now we have like different ways we can do this thing, right? So I love comic books and I love zines. Why not mash them together? So that's what Archetypes is for us. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Ben, you have something to tell us a little bit about, because we are now a partner for Gemini Mailing Supply.
We are, yeah. So we have a great deal with them where we've always talked about this. You know, you've got to use these mailers to get everything out. There's so many. I probably see at least every week somebody complaining about getting their books in the mail and saying, "I'm never going to back this guy again. He sent me this book in like a paper mailer or something like that. It showed up bent up." So we're partnered with Gemini Comic Supply. You can go there and enter Geek Collective 10 and get a great deal on your mailers. And then obviously when you're getting a lot of these in bulk, which you really need to for campaigns, that can really add up to a lot. I think Joey, you said someone we work with had saved hundreds of dollars just from using this.
Yeah, Alan actually just reached out to me. He's like, he told me the other day, and every time that he uses this, every single time that he ships stuff, and I think the least he saved was like $200. Mm-hmm. So and he's like saved like $400 or $500 at a time sometimes, depending on what you order, man. It could do pretty good at, I mean, $200. That's a pretty good. You can get an extra cover from somebody from that, or a couple of them if you find some really great artists, right? So that's pretty worth it. So if you look at it in that way, so make sure you guys are going to Gemini Mailing Supply and hitting Geek Collective 10 at checkout and get your 10% off. Hopefully we'll work on trying to get a little bit more. If we do this and we can see that we are getting an increase in this volume, they'll give us more to give you guys away. So make sure you guys are doing that and getting that 10% off.
Absolutely.
And Ben, you've got something that you want to tease, right?
I have a few things to tease, actually. I'm going to throw the link in the comments here. We've got the pre-launch live for the next Scarlet Twilight, which is called Cobalt Crisis. It's basically if Crisis on Infinite Earths had been created in the 1940s or Secret Wars or something like that. So it's going to be one of those big earth-shattering multiversal epics, but done in the 1940s Golden Age style. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It was kind of a cool, I think, way to take some of those things we're used to seeing, but to do it in a way that can be completely focused on the style and the character of it, not necessarily getting a universe into shape for the next, few years of comics. So I'm really excited for that. I also have a few other fun things to show.
Cool.
We're going to do a campaign just to kind of gear up to this. In addition to what we see in Archetypes, we're going to have another Kickstarter campaign that has a preview of this book. It's going to have, there we go, a few other characters we introduce. This one is the first time I'm showing. It's the Captain Lancet of Earth 86, which is going to be really fun. It doesn't necessarily tie in huge ways to the main story, but it's going to be kind of in that anthology format that you see in those older comics. So a lot of cool stuff in works for the Scarlet Twilight universe in 24. So very pumped.
And I love that you're
share
like
more of that.
I love that you're like there. It has to do with these different universes and multiverses, and you're like dropping these little hints of these little different little characters from these multiverses in like different anthologies and magazines. That's such a cool thing too. That's like that's a genius marketing thing that you just kind of did out of nowhere, out of like randomly too. like it wasn't even supposed to happen.
Yeah, it was. It kind of we started talking about it, and I kind of. As that marinated in my head, I thought, hey, this really ties into how those old comics were put together, and I think it's also a really good build up to, just even when you look at Marvel did, they had kind of the individual movies, and it was so cool to see them get together. So
yeah,
obviously it's not that scale, but it is kind of cool to have a little bit of build up, a little bit of reintroduction to the world from some different angles, and then we go back into that big epic crossover. So we'll see. I hope it works. I'm excited to do it one way or the other.
Heck yeah, very cool. And that's what this is all about, right? Is coming up with different ideas and implementing them and learning from them. So we'll see. So the only way that these things can happen is if you guys go to geekcollective.net/archetypes and drop that link again. It is zoop.gg/c/cobalt right crisis. There you go. And then please drop the link for Thoughtscape. There we go. And make sure you guys are doing that. Go even if you're just sharing it out. Sharing goes a long way.
It's huge.
That's a big one. So also I do have one thing to say. I don't even think I told Ben about this, but we had someone from Catalyst magazine, the digital magazine, reach out to me, and they wanted to do a write-up on me. So I just sent out the questions the other day. I sent the answers out, and that's going to be dropping soon. So look out for that. We talk a little bit about archetypes. I talk a little bit about marketing, and there's a couple little bit of tidbits in there. So I'll be sharing that out and stuff too. So it's another really cool thing to kind of see what we can do with this kind of this medium, right? So very, very cool stuff. So stay tuned. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening from us here in 2024. We're not going to stop, and we're going to be continue going. We have lots and lots of people that we're working with. We have people like Brian Hawkins. He's got a book that's dropping this month, at the end of this month. It's called Stat. It is a meta slasher whodunit. It's basically so the quick little synopsis of it is there's a reality TV show set inside of a hospital, and there's somebody going around killing people, and they got to figure out what's going on, and it's live, and it's right there happening meta. So very, very cool stuff. So he's dropping that. He just got all of his stuff from that production house picked up through I believe Advent Comics. So very, very cool, guys. So you guys want to go and check out all the stuff that he's going out. He's going to be dropping them all through Kickstarter. He's got a 3-4 year plan, guys, like a 5-year plan of all these. Like he's like, here's the next few years of these comics that we're going to be doing, and he's got a big list of them. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So you guys are going to want to check that out. We're going to be working with him on all the PR for all of those things. So make sure you guys are following us, follow Ben, and make sure you always follow Matt. So, Ben, you got anything else?
I think that's it. It's great to be back for the new year. I'm excited to jump in all these new projects we have, and I think that's it. Matt, I want to thank you for coming on and showing off the book.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. Real
Can you
appreciate it.
let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
So you can go to I'm Matt MLPDX on Twitter, X, and Instagram. You can go to thoughtscapecomics.com and find all of my handles there as well. And we're thoughtscape2024.com on Kickstarter right now. So
fantastic and
thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Ben, please drop that outro music.